What if I told you Americans spend $9 billion every year poisoning the most nutritious plant in their yard? A plant with more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, and every vitamin your body needs. And your homeowners association can fine you for letting it live. Let me start with the numbers, because once you see them, you will understand why this plant had to be vilified. Dandelion greens contain 470 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams. Whole milk has 120. Dandelion has nearly 4 times more calcium than milk. You want strong bones? This plant builds bones better than any dairy product, but they convinced you it is a weed. Iron content. Dandelion has 3.1 milligrams per 100 grams. Spinach has 2.7. Dandelion beats spinach and grows in your driveway for free. Vitamin E, 10,160 international units versus carrots at 8,300. Vitamin K, 778 micrograms versus kale at 704. Dandelion beats kale, the supposed king of health foods. Vitamin C, potassium, magnesium, manganese, B vitamins across the board. This plant is a multivitamin growing wild in every lawn, every sidewalk crack, every vacant lot in America. And the system has convinced you that it must be destroyed. The plant I am talking about is dandelion, Taraxacum officinale, the yellow flower you were taught to hate. And it is more nutritious than 90% of what you buy at the grocery store. Dandelion is a perennial with a deep taproot reaching 10 inches into soil. Leaves form a rosette at ground level, deeply toothed like a lion's tooth, which is where the name comes from. In spring, bright yellow flowers appear on hollow stems. After pollination, they become white puffball seed heads that spread thousands of seeds on the wind. Every part is edible. Young leaves are tender and slightly bitter, excellent in salads. Older leaves are better cooked. Flowers make wine, jellies, or fritters. Roots can be roasted as coffee substitute or eaten as vegetables. There is a complete food system in one plant. Historically, dandelion was not considered a weed. It was cultivated. Seed companies sold dandelion seeds alongside lettuce and carrots. Gardening manuals recommended growing it. European settlers brought dandelion to North America deliberately because it was valuable food and medicine. Indigenous peoples in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East had used dandelion for thousands of years. It was documented in traditional Chinese medicine, in Arabic medical texts, in European herbalism. This was respected food. So what happened? How did a plant that was deliberately cultivated become the most hated plant in suburban America? The answer is the lawn industry. And this is where the suppression becomes clear. The American lawn, as we know it today, did not exist before the 20th century. Lawns were a status symbol imported from European aristocracy. Maintaining a perfectly manicured lawn required wealth because it required labor. Regular people did not have lawns. They had yards with mixed vegetation, including edible plants. After World War II, suburban expansion created millions of new homes with yards. The chemical industry, which had produced synthetic fertilizers and pesticides for agriculture during the war, needed new markets. They found one in suburban lawns. Companies like Scott's, ChemLawn, and others began marketing the perfect lawn as an American ideal. Uniform grass, no diversity, no weeds. But there was a problem. Dandelion grows everywhere. It is native to Eurasia, but naturalized across North America. It thrives in the compacted soil of lawns. It tolerates foot traffic. It grows in poor conditions. It is nearly impossible to eliminate. For the lawn care industry to succeed, dandelion had to be redefined, not as food, as the enemy. Marketing campaigns in the 1950s and 60s portrayed dandelions as invasive, ugly, and undesirable. The message was clear. Good homeowners have perfect lawns. Perfect lawns have no dandelions. If you have dandelions, you are failing. This was not about aesthetics. This was about creating a market for herbicides. The numbers are staggering. The lawn care industry in the United States is worth over $70 billion annually. Americans use 90 million pounds of herbicides on lawns every year. Much of that is targeting dandelions and other so-called weeds. Think about that. 90 million pounds of chemicals designed to kill free food, and homeowners pay for the privilege. Then there are homeowner associations. Homeowner associations began as community organizations, but evolved into enforcement bodies for aesthetic standards. By the 1980s and 90s, homeowner associations had power to fine residents for violations including lawn maintenance. Dandelions became a finable offense in many communities. Let dandelions grow and you could be fined hundreds of dollars. Let them spread and the association could force remediation at your expense. This created a system where growing food, even accidentally, became illegal in your own yard. Dandelion is not banned by federal or state law in most places, but homeowner association rules and local ordinances create de facto prohibition. You can be punished for letting dandelion live even though it is more nutritious than the vegetables you are allowed to grow in designated garden areas. The absurdity is intentional. Let me explain what dandelion threatens. First, the supplement industry. Dandelion is a natural diuretic. It supports liver function. It aids digestion. It provides antioxidants. These are things people buy supplements for. If people knew that dandelion growing in their yard provides these benefits for free, supplement sales drop. That is billions in revenue threatened. Second, the pharmaceutical industry. Dandelion has been studied for effects on blood sugar regulation, inflammation, and cholesterol. Research shows potential benefits for metabolic health. If dandelion becomes recognized as medicine, it competes with prescription drugs. That is hundreds of billions at risk. Third, the food industry. Dandelion greens are more nutritious than lettuce, spinach, kale, or any salad green you buy at stores. If people harvest dandelion instead of buying greens, produce sales decline. And because dandelion is free and grows without cultivation, it undermines the entire model of purchasing vegetables. Fourth, and this is critical, dandelion represents food independence. If you understand that your lawn is a salad, that the plant everyone else poisons is actually superior nutrition, you become less dependent on stores, less dependent on supply chains, less dependent on the industrial food system. That independence is dangerous to a system built on dependence. Add it all up, and dandelion threatens multiple industries simultaneously. Lawn care loses customers who stop spraying. Supplements lose customers who forage instead of buying pills. Grocery stores lose customers harvesting free greens. The entire economic model of selling you solutions to problems they created collapses when you realize the problem is food. Now let me tell you how to identify and use dandelion. The leaves grow in a rosette pattern flat against the ground, deeply lobed with pointed teeth that point backward toward the base. The taproot is thick, fleshy, and white inside. The flower is bright yellow on a hollow stem that exudes white, milky sap when broken. There are some lookalikes. Cat's ear has hairy leaves and branched stems but is also edible. Sow thistle has softer spines, also edible. The key difference is the flower. Dandelion flowers are bright yellow and large. If you see the classic dandelion flower, you have dandelion. Harvesting is simple. For greens, pick young leaves in early spring before flowers appear. These are most tender and least bitter. Wash thoroughly. Use fresh in salads or cook them. Sautéing with garlic and olive oil is traditional. For flowers, harvest when fully open. Remove the green base. Use yellow petals in salads, wine, or fritters. For roots, harvest in fall after first frost or early spring. Dig carefully to get the entire taproot. Roast and grind as coffee substitute or cook like parsnips. From a food security perspective, dandelion is invaluable. It grows without planting, without watering, without fertilizer, without any inputs. It appears in spring when fresh greens are scarce. It produces throughout the growing season. It is perennial, returning year after year from the same taproot, and it is nearly impossible to kill. Even herbicides often fail to eliminate established dandelions completely. For preppers and survivalists, this is critical. In a collapse scenario, grocery stores fail quickly. Home gardens require seeds, water, maintenance, and time to produce. But dandelion is already there. It is growing right now in every lawn, every empty lot, every roadside. If you know how to identify and prepare it, you have food security that does not depend on systems. Dandelion also has medicinal uses documented for centuries. The leaves are diuretic, meaning they increase urine production. This can help with water retention and support kidney function. The root is considered a liver tonic in traditional medicine. It supports bile production and may aid detoxification. Modern research has explored dandelion extracts for potential effects on inflammation, blood sugar, and cancer cells. While more research is needed, the historical use and preliminary science suggest real therapeutic value. But here is what makes dandelion truly dangerous to the system. It is unkillable. Herbicides marketed for dandelion control often fail. The deep taproot allows the plant to regrow even after the above-ground portion is destroyed. Seeds remain viable in soil for years. Wind spreads them constantly. Dandelion has evolved to thrive in disturbed environments created by human activity. The more you try to eliminate it, the more it spreads. This means that no matter how much money is spent trying to eradicate dandelion, it persists. Every spring, it returns. Every lawn has it. Every park, every roadside, every abandoned lot. Dandelion is unstoppable. And that terrifies industries whose business model depends on selling solutions to the dandelion problem. Because if people realize the problem is not a problem, but is actually food, the entire deception collapses. Let me share some historical context that reveals how deep this goes. During World War II in Europe, when food was scarce, populations in occupied countries foraged extensively. Dandelion was a staple. People made dandelion salad, dandelion soup, dandelion coffee from roots. It provided nutrition when supply chains were destroyed. Knowledge of wild edibles saved lives. After the war, as industrial food systems rebuilt and chemical companies sought markets for wartime products, that knowledge was systematically discouraged. Foraging was portrayed as desperate, backwards, something done only in emergencies. Modern people bought food at stores. Wild plants were weeds. Within one generation, the knowledge that saved lives during the war was forgotten in wealthy nations. In Europe, dandelion never fully lost its food status. In France, pissenlit, which means pea in bed, a reference to its diuretic properties, is still sold in markets. In Italy, cicoria is foraged and eaten. In Germany, dandelion salad remains traditional. But in the United States and Canada, where suburban lawn culture became dominant, dandelion was completely transformed into public enemy number one. The transformation was so successful that today most Americans genuinely believe dandelion is a harmful, invasive weed that must be controlled. They do not know it is food. They do not know their grandparents might have eaten it. They have been programmed to see yellow flowers and reach for poison. And that programming serves corporate profits perfectly. Now here is what I predict will happen. As food prices continue rising, as economic pressure increases, as people search for ways to reduce expenses, plants like dandelion will be rediscovered. People will learn that the most expensive organic salad greens at Whole Foods are nutritionally inferior to the free dandelion in their yard. They will realize they have been paying to kill food. Foraging knowledge is already spreading. Books on edible weeds are bestsellers. YouTube channels teaching plant identification have millions of followers. The information is getting out despite decades of suppression. And dandelion, because it is so common, so nutritious, and so easy to identify, will be at the forefront of this rediscovery. Homeowner associations will resist. Lawn care companies will fight back with marketing. But the economics are undeniable. Free food versus expensive food. Nutrition versus poison. Independence versus dependence. Once people see the choice clearly, the outcome is inevitable. Dandelions will go from hated weeds to valued food. It is only a question of when. The most nutritious plant in your yard is free, abundant, and unstoppable. $9 billion spent annually poisoning food. That is not an accident. That is not oversight. That is the system working exactly as designed. A population that understands Dandelion is nutrition is a population that cannot be controlled through food dependency. They needed you to believe it was a weed because if you knew it was food, their entire business model collapses. Now you know what they buried. Now you know why your lawn is actually a garden they convinced you to destroy. The yellow flowers are not weeds, they are freedom. And freedom cannot be patented, cannot be sold, cannot be controlled. That is why they made you fear it. If this video opened your eyes to what is really growing in your yard, hit that like button right now. It tells the algorithm to push this information to more people who are ready to break free from the food system. Then smash that subscribe button because every single week we are exposing the plants they banned, the crops they erased, and the foods they do not want you growing. Next week, we are revealing another illegal plant that produces more protein than meat, grows in every climate, and the agricultural industry has spent decades trying to eliminate. You absolutely do not want to miss it. Drop a comment below and tell me if dandelions grow where you live. Let me know if you are ready to stop poisoning food and start harvesting freedom. Welcome to the community that refuses to stay dependent. This is just the beginning.